Hiya, love! So, got a little Kindle on the go again, and I'm going to get a little bit of English work, a bit of reading done to, well, just give you a chance to hear some damn good stories. So this one's called Stone Cold by a guy called Robert Swindells, and it's about a kid who's 16 and ends up kind of having to, well, he gets into a bit of trouble, and, well, you'll find out when you listen to the first bit. Don't turn on notifications, but do turn on closed captions, because then you'll be able to see the story, hopefully, as I read it, if the automatic closed captions work properly. And here we go, this is the first chapter. You can call me Link. It's not my name, but it's what I say when anybody asks, which isn't often. I'm invisible, see? One of the invisible people. Right now, I'm sitting in a doorway watching the passers-by. They avoid looking at me. They're afraid that I want something they've got, and they're right. Also, they don't want to think about me. They don't like reminding I exist. Me and those like me. We're living proof that everything's not all right and we make the place untidy. Hang about and I'll tell you the story of my fascinating life. And then what the book does is flip over to another narrator, and he's not got a real name, he's got kind of a pseudonym or a sort of a character name called Shelter, and he writes in a very structured way, as if he's in the army. Daily routine. Orders number 1. Shelter. Yes, I like it. It's got a ring to it, as I'm sure you'll agree. Shelter, as in shelter from a stormy blast. It's what they're all seeking, the street people, what they crave. If they can only find shelter, then everything will be fine. Well, get fell in, my lucky lads. I'm ready for ya. And then it switches back to Link. My fascinating life, yes. Born March 20th, 1977 in Bradford, Yorkshire, to Mr. and Mrs. X. He puts X because he doesn't want to tell you who they are. We were a family, as happy as most, till Dad ran off with a receptionist in 1991. When I was 14 and at the local comp, this mucked up my schoolwork for quite a while, but that's not why I ended up like this. No. Vincent's to blame for that. Good old Vince. Mum's boyfriend. You should see him. I mean, Mum's no Kylie Minogue, maybe Kim Kardashian nowadays, but Vincent, he's about 50 for a start, and he's one of these old dudes that wear cool gear and try and act young, and it doesn't work because they've got grey hair and fat bellies and they just make themselves pathetic. And as if that's not enough, Vince likes his ale. I suppose Dad must have been a bit of a bastard in his way, but at least he wasn't a boozer. You should see the state Vincent's in when he and Mum come home from the club. He's got this very loud laugh, laughing at nothing, if you know what I mean, and he stands there with his arm round Mum, slurring his words as he tells me to call him Dad. Dad? I wouldn't call that fat pillock Dad if he was the last guy on earth. And the one thing that really bugs me is the way he leers at Mum and comes out with this very suggestive stuff about going to bed and rounding off a decent night. In all the years Dad was with us, I never once knew him to mention sex in my hearing or even hint at it. This slob leers and winks and nudges with one eye on me just to see how I'm taking it, and Mum just laughs and shoves him and says, "Oh, you're a one." Makes me puke. He's changed her. That's one of the things I hate him for. She used to be one of those quiet people who are satisfied with the daily routine of their lives. She hardly ever went out at night. She didn't seem to want to. She was wrapped up in her family, I guess. She was always there when you needed her, and I think she loved us. Me and Carol, I mean. I know how it sounds, me going on like this about Mum as though she wasn't entitled to a life of her own. Of course she's entitled, but what I'm saying is, why Vince? Carol's my sister, by the way. She's 4 years older than me, and she always spoiled me, and when good old Vince moved in and Mum started changing, it was Carol who made life bearable for me. It was bad, but I could stand it with her there to support me. Then one night, when Mum was working late, something happened between Carol and Vince. I didn't understand it then, and she never told me anything, but I've a fair idea now what it must have been. Anyway, she said something to my mum and they had this flaming row, and it ended with Carol walking out of the house. She moved in with her boyfriend and I was on my own. I stuck it out till I finished school, but that was it. I got 5 GCSEs, which was a miracle when you remember what was going on at home, but I couldn't get a job and there's no government money for school leavers. You're supposed to be on a training scheme, but there aren't enough places and I didn't get one. I'm sure Mum would have supported me till I found something, but it wasn't long before Vince started on at me about living on his money. I wasn't living on his money. I'd have topped myself first. It was Mum's money, but he went on, getting nastier and nastier, and one night when I'd been with my mates he locked me out of the house. It wasn't even his house, but he locked the door and wouldn't let Mum open it. I went round to Carol's and she let me spend the night. And when I got home next morning, Vince started slapping me around the head for going off and worrying Mum. If you happen to know anyone who's looking for a 100% out-and-out bastard, I can let him have Vince's address. Anyway, that's how he was with me, and I guess Mum's scared of him because she didn't stick up for me, so I left. You'd have left too, in my place. Anybody would. It's called making yourself homeless. And so here I am, sitting in this doorway, which is now my bedroom, hoping some kind punter will give me a small bit of change so I can eat. Good, eh? Daily routine. Orders number 2. This is Shelter again. I'm getting used to my name. Breaking it in like a pair of new boots. Good morning, Shelter, I say to the bathroom mirror, smiling. Good morning, Shelter. You're a handsome devil, but you're idle, lad. You need a shave. I've been writing it too, on the backs of old envelopes. Shelter, Shelter, Shelter. It's already starting to look like an authentic signature already. I realise, of course, that this has precious little to do with recruiting, and perhaps you think I'm stalling, putting it off. Not so. I'm merely indulging myself. After all, there's plenty of time. The street people aren't going to go away, and anticipation is the best part of a treat, as my old granny never used to say. So it's a case of wait for it, you horrible little man. Back to Link again. I didn't come to London straight away. I may be homeless and unemployed, but I'm not stupid. I had read about London. I knew the streets down here weren't paved with gold. I knew there were hundreds of people, thousands in fact, sleeping rough and begging for coppers. But that's just the point, see? In Bradford, I stuck out like a sore thumb because there weren't many of us. The police down here, London, have got used to seeing kids kipping in doorways, and mostly they leave you alone. In Bradford, I was getting moved on every hour or so. I was getting no sleep at all and practically no money. People up there haven't got used to beggars yet. They're embarrassed. They'll make large detours to avoid passing close to you, and if somebody does come within earshot, you ask for change, they look startled and hurry on by. Also, I kept seeing people I knew. Neighbours, guys I'd been at school with. I even saw one of my teachers once, and if you've never been caught begging by someone who knew you before, you can't possibly know how low it makes you feel. I wasn't out every night back then. That was the one good thing about it. Once or twice a week I'd show up at my sister's for a bath, a meal and a decent night's sleep. Trouble was, I was getting scruffier and scruffier, which happens if you sleep in your clothes, and Chris, Carol's fella, got resentful of my visits. He didn't actually say anything to me, but I could see it in his eyes and hear it in his tone of voice, and I knew Carol must be catching hell from him every time I'd been there. So, what with one thing and another, I decided it was time to move on. Sounds good, right? Time to move on. Reminds you of all those old songs about the restless character who hates to stay too long in one place. He meets a girl who falls in love with him, but after a while he hears the old highway calling, and so he slings his bedroll over his shoulder and moves on, leaving the girl to grieve. Dead romantic, eh? Forget it. Sad is what it is. Sad and scary. You're leaving a place you know and headed into the unknown with nothing to protect you. No money, no prospect of work, no address where folks will make you welcome. You're going to find yourself living among hard, violent people, some of whom are deranged. You're going to be at risk every minute, day and night, especially night. There are guys so desperate or so crazy they'll knife you or batter your head in for your sleeping bag and the coppers you've got in your pocket. There are some who'll try to get into your sleeping bag with you because you're a nice looking lad with soft skin and no stubble. And there's nowhere you can run to because nobody cares. Nobody gives a damn. you're just another dosser, and one dosser, more or less, makes no difference. Alright, there we go, folks. Hope you enjoyed that one. Nice little story. Boom. Look for the questions. There'll be a link in the description. And like I say, don't do the notifications. Subscribe and use the closed captions, and you can practice your reading skills at home. Boom.